All right. Well, everyone, thanks for being here on Ben's Frame by Sound Festival. Today we're wrapping up the day with our last session of the day, the sixth session of the day with Mr. Michael Lange. Hey, well, we're gonna be speaking. We've been speaking the past few weeks about TV. Well, hopefully we'll wrap up that and learn more from someone who's had been working from a while with diverse series of TV series and more. So hopefully you guys will learn something out of it. So let's kick off with the first question. I saw in your bio that you started doing advertising. So how did you and you actually studied theater. So how do you eventually turn into television?
Well, the truth of it is, as with many things in life, you take the opportunities as they come. So I couldn't get a job in theater after I graduated from college.
Yeah.
So I ended up in the advertising business, and I became a producer on Madison Avenue. And I did that for about 8 years. And then during that process, I kind of became more fascinated with film and what you could do with film. So I have a cousin who at that point was working in Hollywood as a producer and a director on various shows. So I told him I was thinking of moving out to LA, and he said, "Oh, I'll help you get a job." So it took 2 years after I moved out. I left, a really good job in New York.
Yeah.
By then I was the head of production at a pretty big advertising agency.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to follow the dream. So after about 2 years of just knocking on doors and going on interviews and whatever, I landed a job on a show called The Fall Guy, which was a big action TV show.
Yeah.
And I was a post-production assistant,
Nice.
which was pretty much the lowest possible job I could have gotten. And my mother, of course, was horrified because I had gone from head of production at a big advertising agency in New York City to
Yeah.
post-production assistant on a dumb TV show. But after a pretty short amount of time, I was able to work my way up. I became the second unit director on that show, which was I directed a lot of the stunts.
Yeah.
And then I got an opportunity to do a show called Riptide and did that. And that's 260 episodes later, here I am.
Nice. So you brought some of New York flavor to LA with you?
Exactly. Yeah, they didn't really know what to make of me because, in New York, it's a pretty quick moving city. So in order to even keep up, you have to basically run. So when I moved out to laid back Hollywood, I did pretty well.
Nice. So you put in action anything you learned from your previous background experiences, in advertising? Did you start using some of that skills on TV?
Absolutely. One of the major one actually was because I had been a producer. I kind of knew what it took to get things done. So I was able to climb up the ladder very fast. Time's up.
Yeah.
So I was able to climb up the ladder pretty fast because I kind of knew the ins and outs of the politics of office stuff and whatever, which is a very important part of becoming successful.
Yeah. So having been both part one way or another from having been part of shows like from very classic modern TV shows like Dawson's Creek and stuff, especially from the 90s, and having appearances and so on shows. Do you still try to bring back some of that show's quality into those series you're working right now, or you have been adjusting yourself to the new era?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a constant adjustment, as the tastes of audiences change. And, I like actually where things have gone because I always, even when I first started, like in the old days, if someone went from California to New York, you'd have to have a scene. In the old days, they would have a map of the United States, and they would have a little red line that went across the country, and that would tell the audience that they went from California to New York.
Yeah.
And of course, now we don't really need that kind of storytelling. And I never thought that audiences needed that to begin with. So, it's a constant changing as the styles change. As I said before, you have to
Yeah.
keep up with what the visual style. I think today's audiences, because they've grown up with music videos and with, Snapchat and quick images and all
Yeah.
that other stuff, you
Mhm.
can't tell a story the same way you used to visually. So if you don't keep up, then you don't work.
Yeah. So, you mentioned social networks and stuff. Do you use any of those currently? How do you being just to those social networks?
Oh, I'm
To,
addicted to Facebook. Not
nice.
so much. I mean, I have a Twitter. Yeah, I'm on all of them. I don't really use Twitter that much, but Facebook. I'm on Facebook right now. Here, look. No, that's not Facebook, but and I love it actually. I think it's great. It's a great way to keep, your, I have a very large, friends on Facebook,
Yeah.
and I'm able to keep them updated with what I'm doing, and I've actually gotten a few jobs from Facebook.
No, really?
Yep. I have a few director friends, and sometimes they produce shows, and I'll be talking about something I'm working on, and they'll Facebook me and say, "Hey, you want to come over and do my show?" And so it's great.
Nice. Well, you have been part of, some great shows. You have directed some, a wide range of shows like, Greek, OC, Dawson's Creek, like we mentioned, and you have directed a large portion of those, a large portion of those series. So it makes me wonder, when the new director jumps in eventually, you go move along to other shows. You try to keep the consistency on the vision and style, or does it change?
No, it changes because each show, as a TV director, I'm really a hired hand. So my job on the show is really to make sure that the show that came on the week before and the show that's coming on the week after mine doesn't look really that different. It has to sort of fit in with all the other episodes because that's what the audience comes to, every week comes to see. So what I do is, I look at a few episodes or as many as I can to get a feel of what the show looks like and the kind of camera movement, and then you try to, play within that arena. I do, obviously, each person has their own style that they're going to bring to the show. So obviously, hopefully my episodes are slightly different in some way. I like to think they're better than the other ones, but within it's all the show needs to be pretty close to the same every week.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to work on a wide range of series, like I mentioned, from adults and youngsters, the type of shows to kids shows. So those approach tends to change depending on what type of audience you're directing to.
Definitely. And some of my discussions with producers, like I was a producer director. Whoa. I was a producer director on a show a few years ago called Greek, which
Uh-huh.
was about college fraternities and sororities, and it was a comedy drama.
Yeah.
And my big, differences of opinion with the network, where I always thought the audience of that show was like, teenagers, and so
Yeah.
they like dark visuals and stuff like that. The network always wanted everything to be bright,
Yeah.
which is what they like, but they're older, they were older. So I would always say, the show isn't for you, it's for these 15-year-old kids. So we need to make the show for them. That so anyway.
So in that case, did some research? You went to some colleges and met some people.
Yep.
In those cases, how's the working process in that case?
Yeah, I mean, you try to figure out who the audience is of the show, and then you try to see what they like and what their world is like, and then you sort of try to fit in with that world.
Cool. So no, so like like I mentioned, you have worked in a wide range of genres, also in genres of type of shows, from comedy to drama
Right.
to action. But one thing I personally noticed is that you have most of the series you have worked in are either comedy or drama, or they are a mix of both. Like in Bonds, for example, which by the way, I watched your episode you directed, pretty cool, Bonds every day. So, is it a coincidence or you have some sort of a soft spot for this genre? For the genre?
Again, it's as I said before, a lot of it is the opportunity that presents itself. So I happen to love that genre. It's a lot of fun to work in. In a way, yes, it's a coincidence, but it's like I said, that's kind of the fun thing about how my career turned out is I've been able to really bounce around to a lot of different things, which is fun. And each one, you have to. I mean, as I said, I'm the same guy, but you try
Yeah.
to look at what the show is and what the storytelling is of that individual show, and then try to adjust. Bring my whatever I bring to it, but then you need to also make sure that it's the same show that was on last week and the same one that's going to be on next week.
Yeah, so in that case, we know there are two types of directors. There are the technical directors and there are the acting directors. Do you consider one or the other? You try to blend both together.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I feel I'm pretty good at both, actually. I mean, my
nice.
my focus. I mean, I mainly focus on the acting because to me, really, it's about the performances and the actors. That's the most important part. But I also love trying to come up with. I mean, it's really it all comes from storytelling because ideally, when you're setting up shots,
Yeah.
they shouldn't just be random shots. That you should, help. Each shot should help to tell the story. And if it doesn't, if it takes the audience out of it, like I could do a cool, if I did a cool crane shot, for example,
Yeah.
from 70 feet up in the air, but it didn't really tell the story, then the audience would be saying, "Ooh," somewhere in there they would think, "Ooh, that's a cool shot." Well, once they say that in their head, I have not done my part because they shouldn't be thinking that's a cool shot because the shot should be forwarding the story.
Yeah, so do you do that on editing then? How do you then make that happen? The people just not about the story and not so much about the shot because especially for people like me, or film students and stuff, they tend to look over at the shots, at the editing way. So how do you, as a director, try to avoid that? Just enjoy the series.
Well, it's really when you shoot it. It's like if I think a crane is going to help to tell the story, then I ask for a crane. If I don't, then I don't ask for it. It just doesn't show up by accident.
Cool. So so you mentioned before you have worked, advertising, which as we know is pretty very short, type of format of land when it comes to land. So how has that type of working very fast in a very fast environment has helped you as a director now on TV series where the deadline is pretty low, pretty short.
Right. I think when you're in advertising, you're really, the best commercials are the ones that do tell a little story in 30 seconds. So it really makes you very more aware of using every single second of your screen time to tell the story. And I think for the most part, it does help. Has helped me to be more concise in my storytelling. And then
Cool.
also,
Yeah.
a big part of commercials also, most of my time as an agency producer was spent in the editing room. I didn't direct the commercials, but
Yeah.
then, so in the editing room, you can see how you can change things and make things better, sometimes make things worse unintentionally, but ideally you can see how you can make things better with editing. So that's a very helpful skill to have gotten.
Well, you mentioned you have been, being a producer before. So, as a producer, we know that in some way, producer and director are pretty. They tend to kind of kill themselves, try to kill themselves from time to
Right.
time. But they kind of have in some way the same mentality. The director think about the technical stuff, and the producer more about the economic. But also, they try to get into the technical stuff as well. So how has that knowledge help you now as a director?
Well, because the biggest part is I know when they're trying to bullshit me, because I know, because I've done that job before. So I can talk in their language, and it sort of, it helps me to get what I want.
Nice. So let's see. All right. So I think that was it. Okay. So no, but besides, as you have your current working on a new show. So what can we expect now from Michael Lange from now on?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I just finished a little independent movie, which I shot in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's turned out really well. I'm in the post-production phase at this point, and we're going to try to get it into festivals and stuff like that. So that would be great. I mean, I enjoyed the process of making the movie, although it was very difficult because it was very low budget, so I didn't have the greatest crew. I had a small crew,
Yeah.
and the movie was written. It was not really written to be done on a low budget, but I had to figure out ways of still making it look like a big budget movie. So that was kind of fun and sometimes frustrating. I would be really happy to do another one of those. That would be great. And then, of course, my TV is still chugging along. So,
Yeah.
and I might go into poetry. No, I'm kidding.
Nice. Well, like you mentioned, you have done movies. So is it a different? Do you take a different approach? Is it a different kind of working method when you're working on a TV series than when you're working on a movie?
Yes, it's different. I mean, a lot of the technical, a lot of it is similar. The biggest difference is that as a director in a movie, like in a TV show, I'll be on the set and I'll usually have a producer or a writer or someone who's both sitting behind me, and I'll do a scene and they may say, "Oh, do you really want to do it?" There's a lot of people that sort of check up on what's going on, which is usually annoying to me. As a movie director, there's no one that does that. So if I say I want the camera to be upside down, there's no one who's going to say, "Really? Do you think it's a good idea to put it upside down?" They'll just put it upside down. And then it's really all on the director. If it doesn't work, it's my fault, which I'm good with.
Nice.
I prefer it.
Yeah. So
And
that's
also, when you're in the script and pre-production, the director in a movie has a lot more say on what happens in the script.
mhm.
Whereas when I come in to do a TV show, pretty much the script that I get is the one that I do. I don't really have a lot of input on the script.
Nice. Well, okay. Well, I think that was it. Thanks again for sitting here with us and taking some time to lecture us and tell us more about your working method. Hopefully, people will learn from this, get to know better the world, and maybe those who might be thinking about switching place to go to TV direction. What final words for them? What advice would you give them to those thinking about turning into TV directors?
Well, my usual advice to anyone who wants to get into the business is if there's anything else that you're good at, do that instead. But, and I was going to say seriously, but that actually is serious. And it's probably the best advice I could ever give anyone. But if you can't do something else, if you are driven to do it, then as a director, I would just say learn as much about everything as you can.
Mhm.
And I think that, to me, the technical aspects of it, like I think film school, it's a good place to maybe make connections.
Yeah.
But in terms of your learning, what you're going to be learning, I think that's not so important as a director. I think you'd be better off studying history and art and psychology. Those are the skills I think that really are harder to learn as a director than, where to put the camera. That's pretty, it's not that hard. You put it in the best place, or you can ask the cameraman where he thinks you should put it, or she. And it's just, if you want to follow the dream, it's going to be just be persistent, and don't be embarrassed about saying what you want to do. And, hopefully you'll get your shot.
Cool. Well, hopefully, we will definitely gonna have that consideration. Yeah, I personally myself, they wanted me to be how do you call it, a programmer, a website programmer, and eventually all the doors closed up, and now I'm just studying movies. So I think what's meant to be.
All right. Well, you got to follow the dream.
Definitely. Well, thanks a lot again, and well, hope we'll see you. Got some cool movies. Hopefully we'll see you there in the platform too, watching some of those cool movies. And thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.